Welcome back to the Arizona Daily Mix road trip from the Oregon stop, Isa and Mesa. And I'll tell you, this is pretty cool. Every day at 3 o'clock, we get medical update from the doctors right here on ABTV7. And I talked with Dr. Judy Ho, who's one of the contributors of the doctors, about her new podcast. Dr. Ho, last time you were here, you had just launched your new podcast. How's that going?
Everything is going wonderful. You know, one of the things that I love most about the podcast is really getting to know people on an in-depth level, really getting to have an hour of their time for conversation. In TV, you get 4 or 5 minutes in a segment. And now I get to really understand these wonderful people that I've had on my podcast. I've had thought leaders, I've had celebrities, I've just had an amazing number of individuals who help us to learn how to supercharge our life in various different ways.
Yeah, and right now it's very important for people to pretty much supercharge their lives with everything that's going on. We've been slowly opening it up here in Arizona. I know they're in LA, they're starting to, and around the country are, but what are some things that people can do to supercharge yourself from your podcast?
Well, I think there's a lot of tips to be learned, like how to be more productive, how to supercharge your wellness, your physical health, how to actually get exercise in a way that makes sense to you and doesn't feel like a burden, how to recover from burnout, people who struggle with depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress, how do we heal from that? And right now, in the current moment, how do we heal the second pandemic that we have, which is racism, which is social injustice and inequality? And I recently just had a great podcast interview with 2 individuals. I had a interview with Ray Green. He's a filmmaker. He was the award-winning filmmaker of Monsters and Men that took a look at police brutality. And I also interviewed on that same podcast Father Tom, who is a Catholic priest who also owns a production company and also makes socially conscious films. And it was just really cool for us to get together from our different backgrounds and upbringings and show how it is to have reflective and respectful dialogue. You know, it's a really important time for us to be non-defensive and to listen to each other so that we can all heal as a society.
Yeah, and that's what's so great about your podcast is that you are not just playing out ahead of just like, you know, we'll just talk about this. You're really going with what the topics are right now and what people need. What are we going to be seeing coming up this month as you start to go through more of the different topics that we're seeing in our faces pretty much?
Well, I definitely think that we need to talk more about how our country is going to move forward as the reopening occurs. There's so many things to contend with. I think people are burnt out. They're sick of being at home, but at the same time, they're also scared to go back out there. So people are feeling like they're in between a rock and a hard place. I know a lot of people who are excited to get back out into society, but are afraid of how they should interact with people. I know that there's still a lot of anxiety in certain cities where it doesn't really look like we've truly bent the curve. So I think it's going to be a whole new set of challenges, exciting, but certainly challenges of how we work, how we play, and how we have relationship with each other, especially thinking about people who are single and wanting to date. What is safe dating now, especially because you are so afraid to get close to somebody? And it's sort of like this whole other animal that you have to tackle. It's not just do you get along, but it's also, hey, do you have the coronavirus and do I need to see your test or do we need to go take antibody tests together? Just a whole completely new thing that we have to contend with.
Wow. Okay. What's one quick tip you can give people about being happy and recharged?
Well, I think the first thing is to start with gratitude every morning. Sometimes we have a hard time getting into a good mindset. And I always start with just thinking about 3 things I'm grateful for every morning when I wake up. You can write them down or tell them to your family, no matter how small they are. But just that tiny little gratitude exercise really orients your mind in a positive way.
So that's awesome. Dr. Judy Ho, thank you very much. Remind people about the name of the podcast and where they can find it.
Thank you so much. The podcast is called SuperCharged Life with Dr. Judy, and you can find it on Apple and all of the other podcast platforms that are available.